Joshua, a towering figure in the history of Israel, stands as a symbol of faith, courage, and divine leadership. His story is one of extraordinary resilience and steadfast devotion, guiding the Israelites through one of the most transformative periods in their history. Joshua's journey from a young warrior in Egypt to the leader who conquered the Promised Land is not just a tale of military conquest, but also a narrative rich with lessons on faith, obedience, and the fulfillment of God's promises. This account delves deep into the life of Joshua, exploring the challenges he faced, the victories he achieved, and the legacy he left behind. Joshua's origins are humble, rooted in the tribulations of the Israelite people in Egypt. Born into slavery, Joshua was from the tribe of Ephraim, one of the most influential tribes of Israel. His early life would have been marked by the harsh realities of Egyptian oppression, shaping him into a resilient and faithful individual. His original name was Hoshea, meaning salvation, but Moses, seeing his potential and God's plan for him, changed it to Joshua, which translates to Yahweh is salvation. This renaming was symbolic, reflecting Joshua's future role as the instrument through which God would bring salvation and victory to his people. Joshua first emerges in the biblical narrative as a young man of valor during the battle against the Amalekites, a crucial early test of his leadership and military prowess. As Moses' appointed general, Joshua led the Israelites into battle while Moses, Aaron, and Hur stood and overlooked the battlefield. As long as Moses held up his hands, the Israelites prevailed, but when his hands grew weary, the Amalekites gained the advantage. Aaron and Hur supported Moses' hands, ensuring the victory for Joshua and the Israelites. This event was not only a military triumph, but also a profound demonstration of the importance of divine support and leadership in the life of Joshua. One of the defining moments in Joshua's early career was his selection as one of the 12 spies sent by Moses to scout the land of Canaan. This mission was crucial, as it would determine the Israelites' next steps in their journey toward the Promised Land. The spies were tasked with evaluating the land's fertility, the strength of its inhabitants, and the fortifications of its cities. After 40 days of exploration, the spies returned with their report. While they confirmed that Canaan was indeed a land flowing with milk and honey, 10 of the spies focused on the formidable obstacles, reporting that the inhabitants were too powerful to overcome. In contrast, Joshua and Caleb, the only 2 spies who trusted in God's promise, urged the Israelites to move forward with the conquest. Joshua's faith in God's ability to deliver the land to the Israelites was unwavering, even in the face of the fear and rebellion of the people. This episode was a critical test of Joshua's character, revealing his deep trust in God and his leadership qualities. Unfortunately, the people's fear won out, leading to a rebellion against Moses and God's judgment that the current generation would not enter the Promised Land, except for Joshua and Caleb. The transition of leadership from Moses to Joshua was a momentous event in the history of Israel. Moses, who had led the Israelites out of Egypt and through the wilderness, was nearing the end of his life and would not enter the Promised Land due to an earlier act of disobedience. God chose Joshua to succeed Moses, a decision that underscored Joshua's faithfulness, courage, and readiness to lead the people into Canaan. God himself commissioned Joshua, offering both a promise and a command. "Be strong and courageous, for you shall cause this people to inherit the land that I swore to their fathers to give them. Only be strong and very courageous, being careful to do according to all the law that Moses my servant commanded you." This divine mandate was not only an endorsement of Joshua's leadership, but also a reassurance of God's continued presence and guidance. The task ahead was daunting. Joshua was not only stepping into the shoes of one of the greatest leaders in Israel's history, but also facing the challenge of leading a nation into battle against powerful enemies in a foreign land. Yet Joshua's faith in God never wavered. His first act as leader was to prepare the people to cross the Jordan River, a symbolic and literal crossing into the fulfillment of God's promise. The crossing of the Jordan River was a defining moment in Joshua's leadership and in the history of Israel. The Jordan was at flood stage, making the crossing seem impossible by natural means. However, Joshua, following God's instructions, commanded the priests to carry the Ark of the Covenant into the river. As soon as the priests' feet touched the water, the flow of the river stopped, allowing the entire nation of Israel to cross on dry ground. This miraculous event was reminiscent of the Red Sea crossing under Moses, reinforcing to the Israelites that God was with Joshua as he had been with Moses. It also served as a powerful reminder that the conquest of the Promised Land was not just a military endeavor, but a divine mission, with God leading the way. After the crossing, Joshua instructed the people to set up 12 stones taken from the Jordan as a memorial to this event. These stones were to serve as a lasting reminder of God's power and faithfulness, teaching future generations about the miracles that had brought them into the land of Canaan. The most famous of Joshua's military campaigns was the Siege of Jericho, a city with formidable walls and defenses. The fall of Jericho was a crucial victory for the Israelites, as it opened the way for the conquest of the central region of Canaan. The strategy for the battle, however, was unlike any traditional military campaign, emphasizing the central role of faith and obedience in Joshua's leadership. God gave Joshua specific instructions for the siege. The Israelites must march around the city once a day for 6 days, with the priests carrying the Ark of the Covenant and blowing trumpets made of ram's horns. On the 7th day, they were to march around the city 7 times, and after the 7th circuit, the priests were to blow the trumpets and the people were to shout. Joshua, trusting in God's plan, led the Israelites in this unusual battle strategy. On the 7th day, when the people shouted, the walls of Jericho collapsed, and the Israelites charged into the city, securing a decisive victory. The fall of Jericho was more than a military success. It was a dramatic demonstration of God's power and the importance of following His commands precisely. This victory had a profound impact on the morale of the Israelites and struck fear into the hearts of the other Canaanite kings. The collapse of Jericho's walls became a symbol of what could be achieved through faith and obedience to God, setting the tone for the subsequent conquest of the land. Following the triumph at Jericho, the Israelites faced a stark reminder of the consequences of disobedience. The next target in their campaign was the city of Ai, a seemingly smaller and less formidable city than Jericho. Joshua sent a relatively small force to capture Ai, confident after their recent victory. However, the Israelites were soundly defeated, with 36 men killed in the battle. This defeat shocked Joshua and the people, leading Joshua to seek God's guidance in understanding the cause of their failure. God revealed that the defeat was due to the sin of Achan, an Israelite who had disobeyed God's command to devote all the spoils of Jericho to him by taking some of the plunder for himself. This act of disobedience had brought God's judgment upon the entire nation. Joshua responded by identifying Achan, who confessed his sin. Achan and his family were then judged according to the law, and the stolen items were destroyed. This event was a harsh but necessary lesson for the Israelites, emphasizing that success in the Promised Land was contingent on strict obedience to God's commands. After dealing with Achan's sin, Joshua led the Israelites in a renewed attack on Ai, this time following a strategy given by God. The Israelites set an ambush, luring the men of Ai out of the city and then capturing it. This victory, following the repentance and renewed obedience of the people, reaffirmed the principle that their success depended on their faithfulness to God. As Joshua and the Israelites continued their conquest of Canaan, they faced another challenge, this time in the form of deception rather than direct confrontation. The Gibeonites, a Canaanite people, feared the advancing Israelite army and devised a plan to save themselves. They sent emissaries to Joshua, disguised as travelers from a distant land, with worn-out clothes and moldy bread, claiming they had come from far away and seeking a peace treaty with Israel. Joshua, without seeking God's counsel, was deceived by the ruse and made a covenant with the Gibeonites, swearing to protect them. When the deception was uncovered, the Israelites were unable to break their oath, as it had been sworn in the name of God. Instead, the Gibeonites were spared, but made to serve as woodcutters and water carriers for the Israelites. This incident was a significant learning experience for Joshua. It underscored the importance of seeking God's guidance in all matters, even when the situation seemed straightforward. The Gibeonite deception also had long-term implications, as the presence of these non-Israelite peoples within the land would later cause challenges for Israel. However, it also demonstrated Joshua's integrity in upholding his oath, even when made under false pretenses. After the initial victories in central Canaan, Joshua led the Israelites in a series of campaigns to conquer the southern and northern regions of the land. These campaigns were characterized by a combination of brilliant military strategy and miraculous interventions by God. The southern campaign began with the defense of Gibeon, when the Gibeonites were attacked by a coalition of Amorite kings who resented their treaty with Israel. They called on Joshua for help. Joshua responded swiftly, marching all night to surprise the enemy forces. During the ensuing battle, God intervened in a dramatic way. He caused a hailstorm that decimated the Amorite armies, and at Joshua's request, made the sun stand still in the sky, prolonging the daylight so that the Israelites could achieve complete victory. This long day was a miraculous sign of God's power and support for Israel, solidifying Joshua's reputation as a divinely appointed leader. The northern campaign was equally challenging. A coalition of northern kings led by Jabin, king of Hazor, gathered a massive army to resist the Israelite advance. The biblical text describes this army as being as numerous as the sand on the seashore, with many horses and chariots which were considered formidable military assets. Despite the overwhelming odds, Joshua led the Israelites to victory, again following God's specific instructions to hamstring the horses and burn the chariots. The fall of Hazor, the leading city of the northern coalition, marked the end of organized resistance to Israel and Canaan. These campaigns demonstrated Joshua's effectiveness as a military leader, capable of both strategic brilliance and complete reliance on God's guidance. The victories secured during these campaigns laid the foundation for the distribution of the land among the tribes of Israel, fulfilling the promise made to the patriarchs. With the major military campaigns completed, Joshua's role shifted from that of a warrior to a statesman. The time had come to divide the conquered land among the 12 tribes of Israel, a task that required wisdom, fairness, and a deep understanding of God's will. The division of the land was a significant event in the history of Israel, as it marked the fulfillment of God's promise to give the descendants of Abraham a homeland. Joshua, along with Eleazar the priest and the tribal leaders, oversaw the allocation of the land. The process was done by casting lots, a method believed to reflect God's will in the distribution. Each tribe received a portion of land according to its size and needs, with the tribe of Levi receiving no territorial inheritance, as they were designated as the priestly tribe and were given cities and surrounding pasture lands instead. The tribes of Reuben, Gad, and half of the tribe of Manasseh, who had chosen to settle east of the Jordan River, were also accounted for, with Joshua ensuring that their needs were met while maintaining unity among all the tribes. The division of the land also involved the establishment of cities of refuge and the assignment of specific cities to the Levites. Cities of refuge were designated as safe havens for individuals who accidentally caused the death of another, ensuring justice while preventing blood feuds. The Levites, being the religious leaders of Israel, were given cities scattered throughout the land, reinforcing their role as spiritual guides for the entire nation. Joshua's handling of the land distribution was marked by a deep sense of justice and an unwavering commitment to God's commands. He ensured that each tribe received its rightful inheritance, maintaining unity and fairness throughout the process. This careful and equitable distribution helped to solidify the Israelites' settlement in the Promised Land and laid the groundwork for their future as a nation. As Joshua grew older and his time as leader of Israel drew to a close, he gathered the leaders of Israel for a final address. This farewell speech, recorded in Joshua chapters 23 and 24, serves as both a summary of his leadership and a powerful exhortation to the people of Israel. In his address, Joshua reminded the Israelites of all that God had done for them, from their deliverance from Egypt to the conquest of Canaan. He urged them to remain faithful to the covenant with God, warning them of the dangers of turning away from him and following the gods of the surrounding nations. Joshua's speech was both a reflection on the past and a call to future faithfulness, emphasizing that the blessings they had received were contingent on their continued obedience to God. One of the most famous passages from Joshua's farewell address is his declaration, "But as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord." Joshua 24:15. This statement encapsulates the essence of Joshua's life and leadership. He was a man committed to serving God with unwavering devotion, regardless of the challenges or opposition he faced. Joshua's example of faithfulness set a standard for the nation of Israel, reminding them of the importance of serving God wholeheartedly. After delivering his final address, Joshua led the people in a renewal of the covenant with God at Shechem. This ceremony involved the reaffirmation of their commitment to follow God's laws and the setting up of a large stone as a witness to their promise. Joshua's leadership concluded with this solemn and symbolic act, reinforcing the importance of faithfulness to God as the foundation of the nation's future. Joshua's legacy is profound and multifaceted. He is remembered not only as a great military leader who led the Israelites to victory in Canaan, but also as a man of deep faith and obedience to God. His life serves as an example of what can be accomplished when one trusts in God's promises and follows his commands. Joshua's leadership established Israel in the Promised Land, fulfilling the promise made to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. His military campaigns, strategic brilliance, and unwavering faith ensured the successful conquest and settlement of Canaan, laying the foundation for the future of the nation of Israel. The cities he captured and the lands he allocated became the basis for the tribal territories that would define Israel's geography and society for generations to come. Moreover, Joshua's spiritual leadership was equally significant. He guided the Israelites not only in battle, but also in their relationship with God, constantly reminding them of the importance of obedience and faithfulness. His final address and covenant renewal at Shechem left a lasting impact on the people, encouraging them to remain true to their covenant with God even after his death. The book of Joshua, which chronicles his life and achievements, is a testament to his enduring influence. It serves as a historical record of Israel's conquest of Canaan and as a spiritual guide, illustrating the principles of faith, obedience, and reliance on God's guidance that are central to the life of every believer. Joshua's incredible story is not just a historical account, but a timeless lesson in leadership, faith, and the fulfillment of God's promises. His example challenges us to trust in God's plan, even when the path ahead seems uncertain or daunting. As we reflect on Joshua's life, we are reminded that with God all things are possible, and that faith and obedience are the keys to overcoming any challenge. Joshua's legacy continues to inspire countless generations, offering a powerful example of what it means to be a leader who is fully committed to God's will. His story is a testament to the incredible things that can be achieved when one places their trust in God and follows his guidance with courage and conviction. If you found this video valuable, please consider subscribing to our channel so you don't miss out on our upcoming content. May you continue to be inspired by the incredible book that is the Bible. See you in the next video.